Hey! What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, IPG, Red, Purple, Gold. Now before we get into this brand new video today, let's just get the easy stuff as we do each time right out of the way, okay? So guys, remember to subscribe to the channel, number one. Number two, leave a like, give it that thumbs up. Also, right down there below us in that comment section, feel free to leave any comments that you would like to leave, and make sure to hit that notification bell so that each time I drop a brand new piece of content, you'll be the first to be notified. Alright guys, well now that we've got that part out of the way, you know, we gotta get through the standard boilerplate stuff. We're going on to the new video today. We're coming back to part 2 of the BergFest 2019, a retrospective. Now guys, if you caught my video from yesterday, and if you haven't had a chance to be able to see that video yet, don't worry, because all three of them, you'll kind of be able to watch them interchangeably. All the videos that I will do, you'll be able to watch them interchangeably, but definitely leave a like on this video if you are planning on going and checking out the video from yesterday after you get done watching this one, because then it just gives you an even more full picture of the event as a whole. But, like I said, we're here to go on to part 2 of the retrospective from my experiences at BergFest 2019. Now, if you guys caught the video yesterday, you know, I kind of had just gone over some of the, general basics, and I had, talked about some of the different bands that were there outside of myself and the Rockos. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about today was more some of the specifics and the practice and all of the lead up to the event, and then kind of go over some more of the specifics from my actual set and my performance that I had up on stage, along with our extra special performances at the end of the night when myself and Supreme Savage, we were able to play with the Rockos live. So you had the two of us and the whole band behind us, and so it definitely was such an amazing and just an awesome, mode when you've kind of got those two things together, where you have more of that hip-hop and R&B, but with that rock vibe to it, it just sounded awesome. So, what I wanted to talk to you guys about today was sort of the ramp up, the lead up, all the practicing that we did, getting ready for the actual event when it came to the music that we were going to perform, especially when it came to practicing the songs that myself and Supreme were going to be doing with the Rockos. And so, when you're going to be doing a performance like that, because like I talked about yesterday, Shane's band, the Rockos, they're doing a lot of cover songs, they're doing a lot of rock from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, kind of all the way through all the decades. They're just picking out, songs that they really like, and they're going through those. But one thing that we did last year for BergFest 2018 was that we had a special performance later in the night when the Rockos were doing their final set, where we had done a song where myself and Supreme were up on stage singing with the Rockos as kind of being our band behind us, and it was just so awesome. But at the same time, if you had, the Rockos, like for BergFest 2019 this year, you had Allison Pressinger, you had Brando Bogart, you had the Rockos, kind of doing different flavors of rock and roll, but still, in a general way, doing some form and flavor of rock, to where when you've got somebody like myself and Supreme, where we're coming with more of that expertise in hip-hop and R&B and doing more of that flavor, you have to be able to come up with really good songs that are going to be able to blend both aspects really well. And so last year, the song that we ended up doing was so much fun, but again, it was also a song where when you blended together the two aspects of having, your more rock band-esque type of band up there with, myself and Supreme, that it was just such a cool thing. Well, we wanted to do exactly the same thing for this year as well, except we wanted to be able to expand it and make it even bigger. So, we did about 3 practices getting ready for the actual event, for our performances that we were going to do with the Rockos later in the night. Now, when we had initially been going through some different ideas, some examples of songs that we thought might be good, we came up with a couple and we were going through them and, we're like, ooh, we really like this one. We don't know if that's going to work as well. Boom, let's stick to these 3. And so the songs that myself and Supreme were going to perform with the Rockos this year for BergFest 2019 were 3 songs. And those songs were California Love and Getting Jiggy With It, obviously by Will Smith. And the last one that we were going to do was going to be Feels by Pharrell and featuring Katy Perry. So those were the 3 songs that we were going to do. And it's really funny because when you are doing your first practice or 2, most of that is really more just working out the bugs. Like it's grinding the gears. It's just a lot of, playing the song again and again and just seeing what works. Are there major mistakes that we're making? Are there areas of the song where, like myself, if I'm singing lyrics, do I have the entire song down? Are there still parts that I need to learn better? What sections have I memorized? What do I still need to, try to commit more to memory? And so when you're doing stuff like that, your first couple practices, like I said, they're more just about working out the kinks. They're more about smoothing out all the wrinkles and just making sure that when you get up there to perform live in the moment of the actual event, that you've practiced to the point where you feel confident that nothing is going to go wrong, that everything will go off without a hitch. And I'm much more so like that as well, where when I am doing a performance, and I touched on it a little bit in the video yesterday, but I am very much that type of person that when I am practicing and when I am getting ready for a show, like I want to make sure that I'm stepping on that stage with all of my lyrics nailed down, with my performance and everything that I want to do in my head. And even though I'm not at that level yet to where I'm actually learning and performing dances and I'm doing physical steps that I need to remember, okay, put in your pop and lock here and do a glide here or something like that. I'm not at that spot yet where I have that ability to be able to create almost dance numbers for my shows. But I do like to try to incorporate a little bit of dancing movement in there that are maybe more just kind of little random, oh, kapop, you're just kind of going to the beat a little bit. But at the same time, when you're getting up on stage, I want to know that I've really had the opportunity to be able to practice all of the different aspects of each song, and I'm going to make this movement at this word, or when I hit this chorus, I want to do, I want to be moving to this side of the stage, or I want to be able to kind of move my arms up and, do that kind of a thing. I want people to be able to be brought into my energy as well. And so I'm one of those type of people that I'm going to put a lot of time and effort into that practice, because for me, it's about the end result. It's not about the practice per se. It's about knowing that you're stepping up on that stage and you are locked in, you are ready to go, and for you as the individual that as long as you've got that part down, more mistakes and little things that might pop up hopefully should be lessened to the point of almost non-existence, because you've gotten yourself prepared enough to where you're ready for those outside things coming in at you because of the fact that you've got so much of what you need to do nailed down. And so when we were doing our first couple practices, everything went really, really well. And when we got done with our first practice, California Love sounded so good. Feels, I really liked Feels. I thought overall, as like a first practice and kind of going through it a couple times, that it sounded good. But getting jiggy with it, and I know this for me personally, that I was not as prepared with that song as I was with the other two, simply for the fact that with California Love, I was going to be doing the Tupac part, and then Jesse was going to be doing Supreme was going to be doing the Dr. Dre part, and then for Feels, I was going to be kind of, singing the Katy Perry part and doing the Big Sean verse as well. But then when they were talking about getting jiggy with it, they wanted me to do the entire song. And that, because it's only Will Smith singing the entire song, and I had talked to Jesse about it, and I said, hey, if you want to take one of the verses, because I don't want you to feel as if, oh, I'm taking the majority of the time or anything like that. Like, if you want to get on one of these verses, take the first one or take the middle one or take the last one. Like, I don't care. It's totally fine. I just want to make sure that you don't feel in any way like you're getting a short end of the straw or anything like that. And he goes, oh, no, absolutely. It's totally cool. Like, I want to be able to just get down and nail down the parts that I'm doing for, California Love and for my piece for Feels, but I'm totally okay with letting you take the whole Getting Jiggy With It song. And so when we were going through Getting Jiggy With It on the first time, a couple things. Like, I just didn't have the lyrics down as well as I wished I would have, but at the same time, when you're mixing in those two styles of, playing with a rock band, but then having, somebody up there on stage when they're singing, doing more of the rapping and hip-hop style of singing, that you really have to know that, A, the rock music is going to sound really cool, get people's energy and blood up, but yet not be so rocking out that you're drowning out me as the singer too, because it's a hip-hop and R&B song, so it doesn't, for the most part, have a lot of guitars and drums and all these other things in the music, and so when you're doing that live, you just want to make sure that it's going to blend really, really well. And when we were playing Getting Jiggy With It, again, like I said, I wasn't as prepared with the lyrics as I was hoping I would have been. I just didn't have as much of the song memorized as I would have liked, but also when we were playing the song, the way that the guys were playing the actual guitars and the chords and the music that they were doing was also like really, really rock heavy, as opposed to being a little bit more like, okay, let's definitely put the guitars in there and let's have that style, but let's have it be a little bit more of a, almost like a funk-esque, like that type of a thing when it comes to the way the song goes. Let's change it up and not have it be so rock heavy. Let's have it be a little bit more, 70s funk. Let's have it be a little bit more, pop from that side. And so let's try and do that. And so when I was playing, I felt like one of the things is I felt like I was getting lost too much of the time because I kept losing the ability to hear myself singing the song because the way that they were playing was just, it was too rock heavy. Well, when we came back in and did the second practice, and again, that's the coolest thing about practice, especially when it comes to this type of thing where it's amazing how much better you can sound from one practice to the next. And when we got to the second practice, I had 100% of all of the lyrics down for each song, and it was so funny because when Feels was a really good song, maybe for me either tied with California Love or maybe a little bit above it, from the sense of how good I thought it sounded just off of playing it for the first practice. When we did the second practice, Getting Jiggy With It, like, just soared straight to the top. Like, it sounded the best because the changes that we had made, because I had, like I said, every part of the lyrics down, so there wasn't like me needing to like hold a sheet in front of me and like singing at the same time and then looking over here and singing and doing that type of thing. And so when we were doing it, it just went so smooth. I'm like, wow, we just killed that song. Like, it sounded so good. And then California Love had sounded great from the first time, and it just kind of kept going steady along for the second and the third one as well. But somehow, Feels didn't sound really like we had it all the way there, even though for the first practice, we kind of had it much better than I would have expected. And by the time the third practice rolled around, I think that Shane, you know, obviously Jesse's younger brother and the lead singer of the Rockos, he wasn't as, I think, up on the song in a general way. And so by the time we actually got to the day of the event and to our performances, we had decided to take Feels off. Even though I was actually excited to do that song simply for the fact that, you know, it had multiple different people in there. So you had the Pharrell part, you had the Katy Perry part, you had the Big Sean part, and especially in a sense, and this is kind of weird to say, but like, I was also excited to kind of see what it sounded like when I was up on stage, especially doing the Katy Perry chorus. Like, how does it sound when I try to incorporate and understand how she sings the song? How does it sound when you, A, put a male voice on it and then incorporate my style with it? You know, how is that going to sound? So, you know, not that I was, you know, upset or mad that we didn't do it, but it was definitely, I'm like, man, I would have liked to do Feels, but, you know, I think that the band didn't really feel as good with that one. And I'm like, hey, you know what? If we're going up on stage and we're going to be in front of all these people and we're going to be playing music live, I want to make sure that what we're putting out there is 100% our best foot forward, as opposed to, well, I like the song and Keezer likes the song, but Jesse and Shane don't really like the song that much, so, you know, let's see who has the majority and then we'll keep it or maybe not. Like, if we feeling like we're not feeling it, then just cut it, because you know that the songs you are putting on there, you want to have them on there because they sound great. So for the day of the show, we only ended up doing California Love and Getting Jiggy with It. But fast forward from those practices to BergFest 2019, to the actual day of the event, and I mean, just starting out in the morning, because I had gotten up there on Friday night before Saturday, and Jesse and I drove up together. You know, it's at his parents' house, because they've got this huge backyard. It's so cool, and they have all this space to be able to have all of these people come out. But also it gave Jesse and I the opportunity to be able to, you know, help set up for, you know, different aspects of the party overall, because again, it wasn't solely just about, you know, myself and the Rockos and Brando Bogart and Allison and doing, you know, all of these different sets. You know, it was a whole event with, like, you know, a bunch of food and alcohol, and you had, you know, games, and there was like a mixture of, you know, you had young kids there and families and myself and Jesse and a bunch of like our fraternity brothers and friends of ours overall. But then you also had, you know, Jesse's parents, Kathy and Brett, and you had a bunch of their friends as well. So you had like just this awesome amalgamation of people of all different ages, and, you know, just such a fun crowd overall. But last year for BergFest 2018, and unfortunately enough, just living here in the Pacific Northwest, even in the month of August, where you would assume you're going to get the most gorgeous weather, the most hot month, where you should have the most sun, and just, you know, it's shining and you've got that heat beaming down on you. Well, last year, unfortunately, we didn't get that. So on the day of the event, they had reports out saying like, oh, you know, it might rain a little bit during the day. We don't really know. But when you live in a place like Seattle, if they say it, if they think it might rain, you just kind of have the assumption in your mind, like, it's probably going to then. And, you know, that is definitely one thing about the Pacific Northwest, but just in general with Seattle, because this is where I live, that I really do get annoyed with sometimes, because it's like, ugh, are you freaking kidding me right now? It's August, and in the morning it was gorgeous, and now somehow at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it is raining. Like, what in the world is going on? And so that was kind of the thing that happened last year. So for BergFest 2018, in the morning, it was gorgeous, and then around 11 or 12, it rained a little bit, and it didn't rain very long, but it rained relatively kind of hard enough that if you were one of those people like, okay, maybe I'm a little bit on the fence about coming, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, I hopefully can be able to put in the time to be able to make an appearance, but I don't know if I am going to have the ability to make the time to be able to add it in. All of those people who were sort of, you know, sitting on the fence, weren't sure if they were going to be able to come, as soon as that rain came down, whoop, the decision was made for them, and they just were like, you know what? I think it's probably going to be raining most of the day, and I don't want to be outside in an event like this if it's going to be, you know, if the weather's not going to be nice and all of that. And so the frustrating thing about last year was that just on the Facebook invites, because, you know, we live in a tech, you know, very forward world right now, and the term Facebook official wouldn't be a thing if so many people didn't think that you became more official once you announce something on Facebook. And in that same regard, you kind of have a little bit of that idea to say, well, hopefully if you're going to say yes and click the button that you are going to be there, it's probably a better likely chance that you are actually planning on being there, because you took the time not only to take a look at the event, but then you actually took the time also to reply that you were going to be there. So for last year, where there was probably going to be maybe around 100 to 110, 20 people there, we ended up getting about 50 to 65, simply because of the weather. And it was so frustrating just in the sense that, of course, who would not love to have 65 people at the first time they perform as an artist? But knowing that there should have been almost double the amount of people there was so frustrating, simply because of rain. And totally understandably, it is the middle of August, and somehow on a Saturday in the middle of August, when we're getting ready for the first BergFest, now it rains for, you know, 10, 20 minutes, and half the people don't show up. So that was frustrating. But now, fast forward to BergFest 2019, I mean, I can't even believe it, you guys. Like, they were saying again that this year it might rain on BergFest. But, Mother Nature, she smiled down on us this year, and the entire day was absolutely gorgeous. So, this year, unlike last year, where you had half the people not show up, this year you had even more people show up than you had last year. And this year you probably had around 120 to 150 people that were there. I mean, with the amount of cars that were in their front yard, like, I don't think you could have legitimately fit any more in there and actually had to be able, and actually would have had a way to be able to get out the driveway. Like, you would have had to have had people, like, legitimately parking in the entryway to get into their place. So that was so cool, and I was so just crazy freaking happy about the fact that Mother Nature smiled down on us that day, and that she gave us beautiful weather the entire day, and it made, you know, the event itself just so much more fun. So, when it got to my part, and I touched on it a little bit yesterday, but when it got to my set, one of the things that I didn't really have the chance to go over that I want to be able to get to today is the songs that I chose to do for my set for my whole performance. And again, like I was talking about yesterday, I was like, you know what, like, I really need to make sure that, do I want to A, have all the songs that I do for my performance be all from my brand new album, Break the Chain? Do I want to incorporate any songs from my first album, Rooftops and Skylines? And like I talked about yesterday as well, I knew that I also wanted to expand and lengthen the amount of songs and just the time that my set was from last year. And so this year, for my performance, I sang Until Infinity, So Soft, which is also featuring JC Cagle. Now, unfortunately, JC wasn't able to be there at the event because she had actually been at the first practice, and I had talked to her about, hey, would you be willing to do that song with me on stage? So, unfortunately, she wasn't able to be there, but I'm really hoping that, you know, when I get on my next album, or if I do that song again next year, because that really does kind of seem to be a fan favorite, that hopefully she'll be able to be there with me next year to be able to perform it with me. The next song that I did was In My Mind I Create, Strength Just Like a Stag, and the last song was Look How They Flock to You. Now, last year, I did 4 songs. However, even though I know it only seems like it's one more song, it actually was... Some of the songs I did last year were shorter than some of the songs I did this year, because, like, Strength Just Like a Stag, you know, Look How They Flock to You, In My Mind I Create, those are all, like, 4 to 5.5 minute songs. So again, last year where I went maybe up to about 20 minutes at the most, this year was around 22 to 27 minutes of a set. So again, adding in, even though it was only one more song that I added, the songs that I did were a lot longer, and so the overall time was more as well. But those were the songs that I was able to do for this year's performance. And again, like I said, like, when you're up there in the moment, when you get on stage and you start singing, everything else just kind of falls away. Like, all you're doing is just like tunnel vision on just the people out there in that crowd, on putting on just one hell of a show, making sure that your energy is up and that you are trying to do as much as you can to get the crowd involved. Because, like I was talking about, unlike Shane and the Roccos, I'm not doing covers of songs like I did later in the night when we did California Love and Getting Jiggy with It, but for my set, it was going to be all original songs. So not only do you have to know that you're getting up there and you're going to give a really great performance, but you also have to bring that level of energy more so than you would for if you were doing a bunch of covers, because then you're not going to automatically get that immediate response from the audience. Like, oh yeah, I love this song. Ooh, let's sing along, like da da da. You know, like you're singing along and you're doing that whole thing. You don't get the opportunity to do that when it's a brand new artist either, or when it's brand new music that you haven't heard. So you have to bring all those things and incorporate all of that into the overall performance, into your whole set. And so that's what I was able to do. But like I said yesterday, when I got off that stage, when I was done with my set and when I was, you know, just finally completed off the stage and realized that now I can come back to life in a sense, and kind of, wow, like that just happened. Like, I felt so good because I knew for me as the individual that I had done such a better job. My performance was so much improved from what it was last year. And that made me so happy, just knowing it's like, hey, maybe not every individual person out there liked even me as a individual. He was like, oh, I hate this guy, his music is awful, whatever. Maybe some people didn't like a song or maybe two, or maybe some individuals loved every single aspect of it and they were just totally blown away by my performance. But I knew for me as the individual that it was a massive improvement and nobody could take that away from me. And so with that, you guys, we are going to come to the end of this part 2 of my retrospective from BergFest 2019. But you know exactly where you are in this moment. You've got it locked here on the channel with your boy, IPG, Red, Purple, Gold. So, make sure and leave that like if you guys are excited for part 3 of the retrospective, because I've got so much more stuff to tell you guys. But until I come with that next video,